Welcome everyone to my channel. It's Meredith Hawk from meredithhawk.com. Today is day number 9 of my 30-day Life of Abundance series, so welcome. And this week is the beginning of the second week, and I am going to be talking about or concentrating on the mind and the body this week and strengthening those two things. So for the first half of the week, I am going to start talking about the mind. So sometimes we get so involved in our physical appearance and our physical strength and what we've accomplished physically that we sometimes neglect the other side of that, and that's the mental aspect. And how are we dealing with our emotions, and how are we dealing with stress, and all of those things that sometimes can be neglected. And when those things are neglected, they start to have negative impacts in our life. Today specifically, I am going to talk about intuition. And as you know, in the first couple of videos, if you've seen them, if you haven't, I recommend that you go back and check out my first week. I had spoken about a morning practice. And within my morning practice, I take a couple minutes a day to sit down, take a few deep breaths, and meditate. And also feel the abundance from nature and the universe and all of that abundance in my life, and kind of cultivate, or not kind of, but cultivate gratitude and happiness. And that starts the foundation for the day. So that's the foundation of strengthening our mind. And throughout the day, another really amazing technique to begin having a strong mental capacity is developing our intuition. We sometimes neglect it, or we don't know how to really nurture our intuition. And it's a really important and beneficial tool to have to strengthen our mind, and learning how to use it to make decisions in our lives. Intuition is the capability to understand something without consciously reasoning, or not using analytical reasoning. So you don't have a set of data, and you're not relying on facts and figures or substantial evidence to make a decision. A lot of people say it's, go with your gut. But it's a little bit more than that. It is, so to speak, a gut feeling, but there are some parameters that you do want to use when you are making a decision on the fly. The theory out there is that from our past lives, or from the energy within the universe and what's working around us, has an impact and can create these intuitive feelings in order to make a decision. So that's a theory of what intuition comes from. One of the ways to use intuition successfully when making decisions throughout the day is making sure some certain parameters are being met. And there is a wonderful article published by Dr. Locke within the Harvard Business Review, and I'll put the link to that article below. And he lists 3 parameters, and I'm going to add one of my own, but he lists 3 parameters that we should be aware of when we make a decision going with our gut or gut feeling. And those 3 conditions are: 1, being an expert in what the field is that you're using or within making a decision. So let's just make it simple. He uses the example of a mountain climber. If we're out on a mountaineering trip and we aren't the expert, we aren't the leader, we're a beginner or an amateur, we are not going to be making gut decisions that could lead to a life and death situation, right? So in those situations, that's not something that we would use our gut or intuition A second situation is making sure that there is not clearly defined rules or parameters or data already to make certain intuitive decisions. And an example of that is, for instance, a doctor diagnosing a disease. There's certain parameters and data that that doctor is going to have in order to make that decision. So you're not going to be using intuition like, oh, I feel like you might have the flu or mono. And the third one in this particular article is time. How much time do you have to make a decision? Does it have to be a rapid fire decision, or do you have a lot of time to make a decision? For instance, if you are going out looking for a home and purchasing a home, that might not be a decision that you want to make with rapid fire. However, if you're, in another situation where you have to make a decision very quickly, you're more apt to use your intuition if the other two parameters haven't been met as well. So those are three things that Dr. Locke explains in his article, which I 100% agree with. So when you're faced with a decision, you can think about those three things of whether or not intuition should be something that you're going to go off of. One of the things that I would add to that is it a pattern? Are you using intuition as a pattern to make certain decisions in your life? So, and has that pattern been successful? Telemarketers are calling constantly, and and you have to make a quick decision. The other parameters have been set, and everything's good, and you're intuitively saying yes all the time, and it's leading to you spending money that you shouldn't have spent, and so on and so forth. And so that's a pattern where perhaps your intuition should not be used to make that decision any longer. So that I would add in addition to what Dr. Locke had spoken about in his article. Intuition is a very strong and powerful decision-making tool, and it is very strengthening to our mental strength and also to our confidence as well. Some unbelievable and successful people have spoken about how using intuition has made them so successful. I think intuition is something that I'm still working on. I think I use it very often, but it's something that I could work on a little bit more. So that's that for today's topic of conversation. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how you use intuition, if you use it, if you don't use it, if you believe in it, if you don't believe in it. I think it's an amazing tool to have in our mental arsenal, and it also keeps us in touch with the universe and everything going on around us, which is an amazing ability, and it increases that life of abundance, which is what we're talking about. So like I said, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, checked out my previous videos and like this, and please subscribe, and thank you. Cheers.